Hey, hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of Speaking to the Best Content Marketing Leaders across the world. I'm again streaming in from New York today, bright morning here. Very excited to have Pearl Chen on the podcast with us today. Pearl, pleasure to have you today in the studio with us.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Pearl, I think we'll start with knowing you as a person. Of course, I mean, where you grew up, you said you're California girl who loves New York now, and that battle has been ongoing for a while now. So I'd love to understand where you grew up, how do you go to where do you go out to school, college, and then also understand how do you land up we were discussing this in our last session. No one actually plans a content marketing career, and people usually tend to come in because of some interest or the other. You enter the media space in that case. Would love to get across how did you land up making this passion to profession kind of a journey.
Yeah, that's a great question. Yes, I grew up in California. I'm from the Bay Area in Silicon Valley in particular. And I just always loved the written word and storytelling. So growing up, I gravitated to things like publishing, writing. So when I graduated from college and I went to UC Berkeley, I went to New York because this is the capital of publishing. And so my first job was in actually print. So I was editing, magazine, World Digital, and print. And I did that for a good portion of my 20s. But eventually I realized that, the opportunities within media is pretty limited. So I had to expand, in order to grow my career, in order to just find new skills, I made the decision to leave. And there was a period of time where, truthfully, I was thinking, what am I going to do exactly? But what I did want to do, I knew this, was that I still wanted to be a storyteller. I still wanted to be a writer. I still wanted to use the written word and expand that too, not just writing as well. So I wanted those transferable skills. Didn't have the experience though. So I basically, I did lots of different types of jobs for a while. I did in project management for a while. I was in communications for a while. I even, as you probably know, I taught a little bit in the universities at Columbia. And that actually was part of the turning point too, going to grad school and realizing that, you really can expand that transferable skill set. I went to Columbia for my master's in strategic communications, and this is kind of like, I call it like the MBA for English majors, because you have journalists, you have PR people, you have marketers, and that's the first time I really started to open my eyes. I'm like, you really can do other things. And then once you pair that with a job that allows you to wear different hats, that became my transition.
Amazing. That's super good. And I think you've worked at some of the most fantastic organizations as well, right? I mean, would love to know your professional journey as well. I mean, you started in print, moved to digital, upwards to a company like a Bloomberg, like a large company, then working in a company like a Shutterstock, growing, but still like a decent pace. And then now Rock, it's a hyper growth setup altogether. So how has the journey been for you particularly? One, from the lens of a lot of working in the hustle and chaos environment particularly. The second also, how the learnings kind of compounded complementing you, right? For example, every time you come in, I'm hoping experiences like Bloomberg and all teach you a lot about what the quality and benchmark of content looks like. Companies like Rock maybe teach you about what does outcomes of content look like how important is content that performs, maybe because the needs of content are very different across. So I think we'd love to get a sense of your professional journey as well.
I think it really did start around that time I mentioned that job that allowed me to wear different hats. So that was my transition job. It was a nonprofit originally, and it was a combination, at first of comms and then brand storytelling and then more content marketing. From there, I went to a video tech startup, sort of hone my skills into craft itself. And then I think the biggest part of my career that really influenced the rest is IBM. So I went to IBM for about 3 years, and that's where I learned pretty much what I would consider the foundations of marketing. And this notion of not only being creative, but also understanding the business side. Because content marketing at the end of the day is about driving a business goal. And so IBM was great at teaching me how to connect that pipeline, how to understand the generation how to score leads, just making sure you are driving a narrative and with the end goal of converting a customer. So that experience then laid the foundation for some of these other companies you're talking about. Went to Bloomberg after that, which, yes, great experience in terms of exposing me to more multimedia storytelling, really high quality work and vendors there. Took it to Shutterstock, where I headed up a team at content marketers. So there I was able to craft sort of a program based on my own vision of what content marketing could be. And I think it's really a combination of just so many different things. I mean, content means so many different things, different people. But for me, it's pretty much the whole gamut of storytelling across different formats, whether you're short form, long form, or interactive. The key being that you have to connect them well. They have to, again, drive that eventual business goal. So I got to do that at Shutterstock. It was just really gratifying to have a great team that was able to push some boundaries, go into innovative formats. And that experience now informs my current role at Rocked, which I'm a content marketing director. And I'm here to diversify the program too. And then, think about new ways of telling stories interactively, more multimedia, more visually, while still keeping content, written word, SEO, long form, also very much in the picture.
Interesting. You said about how people interpret content in general, and you've been into different organizations where the role of content was very different. In that, imagine this way: for an IDM, it might be more demand generation or thought leadership.
Yes.
For a Bloomberg, it might be more the currency, like the how fast are you able to churn the content out as per the recency of the content, basically, to the kind of take that Bloomberg is taking on particular issues. It was a much more point of view kind of content over there.
Yeah, it was very branded content studio I was part of. So it was working for some of the largest brands in the world.
So
Yeah.
you got to own brand KPIs over there, basically.
Yeah, and looking at like it from a more upper funnel.
Upper funnel lens. And then you have, so awareness funnel is over there, right? Then you went to a Shutterstock, but was more SEO kind of stuff. They just
Very organic, growth driven.
Organic.
SEO is really important at Shutterstock.
And then Rocked, again, it would be different. So love to get a sense around okay, so if I were to put it this way, if someone is actually starting their career in content marketing today, how would you want them to kind of look at different facets of content marketing and then choose for every company how they can kind of niche or chisel down their role particularly? Because it becomes really difficult for people to kind of understand, hey, I'm a content marketer, but what else should I know if I'm a content marketer? Yeah.
Great question. Yeah, content has definitely been talked about in so many different ways. I do think the core of it, though, has to come from a educational standpoint, a thought leadership standpoint, because at the end of the day, what you're really trying to do with content is to be helpful.
Yeah.
To help a customer understand their problem, their pain points, understand what to do with it, a solution-oriented approach. And then finally, at the very end, you need to be talking about how your company in particular can serve that need. So your differentiators have to really come through. So in my view, if you're thinking about content marketing, think of it in 3 pillars. It's the why, it's the what, it's the how. And that roughly maps to a funnel. And I'm actually a great proponent of full funnel marketing. In the content world, sometimes you have people who think it's actually not needed or it's too rigid. So I would say, yes, it should never be rigid. I mean, people are not necessarily consuming content in a linear fashion. But I do think it's really valuable as an organizing framework. It helps you be strategic. It helps you have a cohesive narrative, because the content world, you're always thinking about what's next. What are people going to read, watch, or consume next? Usually one single asset will not do it. The power of content marketing comes from multiple assets working together in tandem, strategically linked. So calls to action are super important, and following a narrative theme of some sort. So that's how I would approach content. So any kind of storytelling that helps that journey or that pipeline, if I want to use more business-oriented term, I consider that content. So the format can very much vary. Some people think it's a blog. Some people think content is video. Some people think it's ebooks. It's actually all of the above. It just depends on how and when you make that thing and how you connect it. So for me, it's more about the story and the message first and foremost before you decide what to make out of it.
Interesting. And you also mentioned about content driving outcomes in general, right? For example, a lot of people, like, there's this famous saying, Mona Lisa would have been not a great painting had it not been sold. So, I mean, I'm just putting an analogy to it. Usually, you got to make the best campaigns in the world, or you got to make the best content in the world, but the content has to perform.
Yes.
So this is like that constant analogy of marrying left brain, right brain together.
Yeah.
Can you tell more about? I think you've seen quite a range of things, right? Because in a company like an IBM, if your content is not performing,
Yeah.
it's of no use. I mean, after
Well, no,
public,
yeah.
absolutely right.
Yeah.
And then in a company like a Bloomberg, the quality of the content sometimes might not perform, but it's still driving the upper funnel metrics. For example, it might be the most viral content piece that you're trying to make because you already have a distribution from a company like that, right? So you've been on either sides of the table always, the left and the right, basically. Can you tell more about? I mean, I'm not saying one is important to have than the other,
Yeah.
but how that marriage usually happens for an individual, and what do people need to complementary learn?
Super important in content marketing is that marriage. So for me, the reason I love content marketing is that it is basically, as you said, it's both an art and a science. It's both the creative side and the business side. And it's really about that balance. So I think if you're a creative person, absolutely hang on to that skill set because you think in a way that actually a lot of people do not think. So you see a big pictures, you see the world in colors and visuals. Probably, though, take some classes in analytics or at least be curious. If you're working in a large company, especially B2B demand gen, you're going to be partnering with performance marketers or data analysts and be curious about that side of the business because at the end of the day, you do want your content to perform and to matter and to be distributed. So no matter how great your content is, if there are no eyeballs on it, it really doesn't matter. So partnering with the people who have more of the left brain skills is incredibly important for a content marketer. On the flip side, if you are coming from more of a left brain background and you're more of a numbers person, it's also important to, expand some of your horizons, maybe even like, I don't know, take a calligraphy class one day or something, pottery, just expand the way you might want to see the world. And then again, partner with the creative people in your company too. There are some content marketers that come from more of that analytical background, but absolutely you can also develop that storytelling intuition and marry the two. So I would say anybody who's interested, really make sure you have at least a familiarity with both sides.
And a lot of people watching this are like people who have kind of been in their careers where. So, okay, let me put it this way. We define a term called as content conviction, basically. Content conviction is nothing but the trust and faith a company puts into organic marketing or content marketing on saying, hey, this is the way that we want an attribution of marketing.
Yeah.
And we're okay to invest our blood, sweat, time, money, efforts, everything in that because long term it works, basically. Yeah. Of course, it's not like performance marketing on saying you push the button, it runs tomorrow, you pull it out, it stops the other day, but it compounds over a period of time.
Yeah.
In fact, I was speaking to a couple of companies over here. Let me put it there. I was speaking to one of the credit unions over here. Basically, they said they launched a landing page, which was the first in the category when they went digital. The landing page that they launched in 2017-18 basically still gives them leads.
Wow.
So every time they just refresh the page every time. And what happens is every time you're getting new leads, your CAC per lead is reducing. So it is a compounding effort that hockey stick right goes upwards usually. I mean, my question to you is, how do you kind of build that content conviction in companies? See, you have had a fortune of being in companies, and I would put it this way, sorry for putting it, the fortune of actually being in companies who have high content conviction. Mm-hmm. Right? I mean, we've seen Shutterstock ourselves. I've seen that myself very personally. Rocked, I definitely know of now. I mean, from the conviction that they had. IBM and all of these companies have large thought leadership institutes now, so that conviction on content has increased over a period of time. Bloomberg, there's a content company altogether. If case there are senior management, you were to convince them on how to kind of build that content conviction, how would you?
Yeah, no, that's a great question because at the end of the day, proving the value of content is almost just as important as making it, and maybe even more. It is more, I would say.
It is underrated. It doesn't get enough.
It does. You really do have to make the case for it. As a content marketer, I think you should just know your North Star metric. I mean, obviously, find all kinds of ways to measure. But if, let's say, you're a B2B company, and at the end of the day, your like lead gen is the goal. make that your biggest metric. Start figuring out a good gating strategy. Maybe not everything's gated, but how do you lead to somebody filling out a form for your piece of content? That journey I was talking about earlier, yeah, you don't want to start with an ebook that no one wants to fill out the form with, but maybe you lead into that big piece of content with snackable short form videos, and then it goes to a nice blog that tells you about sort of a mid-funnel consideration piece that then leads into something bigger. So it really depends on the business. Know your business. That would be another piece of advice. Like, what's the business model? Yeah. So what does the business care about? How do they measure their success? Is it leads? Is it like SEO traffic? Is it like account-based marketing, like influence? Know how the business operates and then match the content to that. Make sure that you can show that content has that kind of value. But to your point earlier, it is a long game most of the time. It pays dividends as things go on. So overnight, depends on the content, but usually not always the case. But over time, together, in tandem, long term, it is one of the best ways to reach customers because you're building trust, basically. Yeah. You're not just selling something off the bat or using advertisements to get it out there. You are building a community, ideally. You are building trust. You're giving education. You're providing value. So that's why that relationship with the customer is so important to content.
Yeah. Very interesting. And again, I mean, also one more interesting thing, right? Because being a content marketer, see, I believe it this way, right? Content is subjective to a large extent. Mm-hmm. It's like a film. I might like it, you might not like it, but that doesn't mean the film is good or bad. It's just perspectives of people, right? Yeah. But when you're evaluating content, because you've also been on the provider side of content, while at Bloomberg, where you're creating this content for brands, and then now on the brand side, you definitely understand all the evaluation of content cannot be subjective. It has to be objective and subjective together in some sense. How do you kind of create benchmarks for good quality of content? Because those same benchmarks are going to travel into what are the kind of people you're hiring, how to evaluate a good person or a bad person in content. I mean, let's start defining the benchmark and the infrastructure so that we can bring brown with talent.
I do think one of the core benchmarks is just, are you hitting what the customer is actually caring about? Mm-hmm. And that's sort of the main theme I think about, but you want to quantify that, sure. You can see different ways. Engagement rates, for example, time on page, those are some of the ways you can really tell completion rates if you're doing something interactive. Time watched versus just plays on a video, time watched, completion rates. So I think engagement is super important if you're going to think in those terms. And your other question was, sorry, go one more time.
So the second question was, how do you kind of bring that back to also benchmarking talent against it? When you're hiring teams, right? Particularly, see, there are more than enough content marketers that are needed in the market, right?
Yeah.
How many of them are good? I still don't know. Mm-hmm. And then the ones who are not good, how do they kind of improvise? And so how do you benchmark?
Yeah, I think so. So if you're going to connect engagement and how to really capture people's attention, I always, when I'm hiring, I look for a breadth of skills. I want to see, have you done storytelling in different ways? It's best if you can show that you have worked in different mediums or formats. So if you're trying things out for the first time or you're trying to build a career in content, just expand the kinds of formats you do and dip your toes in different things and try things out and figure out what you're good at, but also have some familiarity with all kinds of things. Because we're talking about videos, infographics, ebooks, blogs, case studies, a gamut of things that could be considered content. So it benefits you as a person who's trying to be a content marketer to have a little bit of each.
Yeah. Interesting. You also mentioned this word full funnel marketing, right? Yeah. And it's been almost a buzzword in the town now. Yeah. People are saying customer lifecycle management, full funnel marketing. I just feel one thing, not a lot of brands have been able to utilize their content really well when it came to the entire funnel. And that's also because of the fact that they don't understand repurposing of content really well. Yeah. I mean, if I've created a masterpiece of content, my job is effectively repurpose it well and I distribute it well, right? Can you tell more about how you've been able to see success with repurposing strategies?
Yeah, I think it's very crucial. For me, like content marketing, think of it as you need a foundational piece of some sort. Make it high quality. It could be long form, but honestly, it just has to be something that really speaks to the topic in a very meaningful way, in a very educational, deep way. From there, chop it up. as you say, derivatives. It's kind of the name of the game here. Repurposing, repackaging. If you have an ebook, maybe each of those chapters could be its own blog.
Yeah.
Or if you have multiple blogs, turn it into an ebook of some sort. Taking a written form and making it a short motion graphic video. Just breaking it up in pieces, and then in doing so, sometimes you'll map your own funnel. Because that long piece probably is at the end most of the time. But anything leading into it that's on the same topic, but you can make it a little bit less deep. Let's say it's more sizzle, more fun in the beginning. It's all part of the same story. So you just have to chop and repurpose but connect them in a very strategic way.
Interesting. That is very interesting. I mean, a lot of companies haven't been able to do great until the time they do repurpose, the trend is already gone. So then it's of no use. So that's very important, a part that we keep on telling brands as well on saying, hey, I mean, it's not necessary you got to create 100 new pieces of content every month. You can repurpose it really well from that lens also. But I want to kind of tell you more about what. So let's talk about AI in general also, right? The new beast in the town.
Yeah.
And you've been a California girl that were around, so I think when I was in the Bay Area, it used to be almost be a topic of every cafe. We have some table or the others speaking about it. The last couple of months, I've not been able to see that in New York, to be honest. Yeah, and I'm missing it. But I don't know if it's for the good or the bad. But love to at least add perspectives on how have you been able to, because see, again, AI, you guys are an AI company again, dropped in SaaS, right?
Yes.
Shutterstock moved to an AI version of it very quickly, fast in that case. How do you foresee the usage of AI into your content marketing strategies on one front? And how are you also using it on a day-to-day basis? It cannot be, I know this use case and we've tried it once. I mean, have you been able to figure out use cases which can eventually become a part of your regular workflows?
Yeah. I mean, we're very much all in on AI at Rocked. In fact, we are very much encouraged to make it into our processes. I think a longer term, I think AI is going to be the key to scaling a lot of our programs, because most teams are small, the wheels are strapped. So having an AI tool to help you scale, but with, of course, human oversight always, is going to be sort of a long-term thing. Day to day, I am using it as a muse, as a co-pilot, as sometimes my first draft, mostly for inspiration. So it's a start to just get that blank, you're looking at a blank page or a blank canvas, just to get that rolling. And then using the human judgment and your human creativity to then amplify that. So I rarely just take a generative AI piece and just, that's it. But it helps get my creative juices flowing. It helps me start a piece sometimes. And then occasionally after I do it, or let's say I wrote it most of myself, I can also use it at the end to spice it up or to pump it up or whatever the purpose is. So to me, I think of it as a partner. I mean, you kind of have to. I also believe strongly that it's coming no matter what. It's already here. It's not going away. So anybody who's in this field just has to jump in and start experimenting at least. Yeah.
If I were to give you a blank canvas, basically, okay, and just ask you, you've run content engines in the past as well, and now you're running one, building one again, right? What would an ideal content engine for you look like? Like, for example, what parts of the entire content process do you want AI to do? What part do you want humans to do? And might be for different use cases. If I were to tell you were to start a company today that's optimizing for the entire content engine, what would you be doing in that case?
I think all great content programs start with understanding customers, understanding challenges, pain points. So one thing AI is excellent at is research.
Yeah.
Perplexity, especially some of these tools, like they can summarize so well. I think, summarizing, transcribing, automating some of that upfront knowledge gathering is something AI is so excellent at. So I think in terms of having an engine is just that kind of like data collection, source material that I think every content marketer needs to start with usually. If you're not interviewing yourself, if you're not like, also doing first party kind of gathering of information, but if you're going to do research, AI is your friend. So I think that's part of it. And then from there, the generation part is obviously everybody's using it now. But I think it's, again, human and machine collaboration all the way to the end. Yeah.
Interesting. No, great. I think this is very, very helpful, Pearl. We just come to the end of this. We usually have this last round where I asked what your hobby is, and now I got to know. I'm gonna look at, so we look at Pearl as a person, Pearl as a professional, then we looked at Pearl as an AI champion, and now we're gonna look at Pearl as a choir singer. You said your hobby is choir sing. Yeah, you sing in a choir, right? You were singing in a choir.
I actually still do. So I'm in a community choir. We sing pop hits from the 60s to today.
Next karaoke party.
Yeah.
No, but I'm gonna kind of shoot out some questions to you. 6 seconds to answer. What was on top of mind? Just let me know, right? Again. Let's start with favorite holiday destination.
Wow. The French Riviera.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
You got someone else also saying the same answer.
Yeah. Do you need me to go into it, or just you want one word answers? Or black?
If no, I mean we can keep on.
Oh, okay, okay. So like, because it's sometimes like lightning rounds are like one word at a time, but you want me to say a little bit of each?
Yeah, that'd be
Okay. Yeah, I mean, like Nice, just so beautiful. I think some of those like little alleyways and flower shops and bread. Just like be able to walk through little alleys and then see this like amazing blue ocean. Like it kind of just always has left an impression on me.
That's lovely. We had someone else also saying same thing. On French Riviera. Um, 3 tabs that are always on your computer, except for your Google Suite.
Oh gosh. Wow, what is now? I almost can't think of it because it's all mostly Google, but tabs. Oh gosh. I mean, I guess all the other like video conferencing, like Zoom has another one that seems to always be open because of all the calls. Wow, I'm drawing a little bit of blank right now because I feel like
Your analytics, your project management, anything.
I mean, oh yeah, so we use Asana at Rocked, so any project management boards for sure. It's hard for me to think because like it's so two of these companies that just been at are complete Google Suite companies. My gosh, we do everything on this.
You get to realize it,
Yeah,
Carol.
it's like our chats, our emails, okay, maybe like an HR thing, like a Workday or something.
Like there's something makes sense. Okay. If not a content marketer, what would you be in an alternate career option?
Oh my gosh. I think one day I love to like open a stationery shop or something.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Are you like that fancy stationery person?
No, I just kind of like arts and crafts in general. So like, a card shop full of like really cleverly written greetings.
But not in New York.
Hey, why not in New York? I mean, I love paper sources as my inspiration. But they could be outside too. Who knows? But I love these little like creative like outlets for people, whether they want to read something, make something. I think it's just kind of cool.
Next one. What's your humble brag?
Humble brag. Oh my god. I mean, I'm great at spelling bee on the New York Times Games app.
Oh, nice. How do you spell onomatopoeia?
It's kind of like a word game, so you kind of make the words.
Oh, you can make the words. Yeah.
You get like a little scramble of letters, and you make.
Oh, you mean that's the difficult one.
It can't be because it's like there's some rules you have to utter. It can't be too short. It has to have a certain letter in it in the middle. So I spend way too much time on that app, but I really love it because it's like visual and both like also using like words.
The irony with me always, I'm running a content company.
Yeah.
But I'm really bad at Scrabble. So like people get shout at me. I mean, when I'm playing with my friends, they're like, "Dude, you run a content company, you cannot be bad." So I'm like, yeah, I mean, I cannot.
It's a different mindset though, right? It's actually it's a different kind of. Just a different kind of thing. It doesn't mean you're bad at content.
Oh no, of course. I mean, it's just for fun, but I mean that's how you put it out. Last 2 questions. A brand that you think is not doing their marketing great. I mean, you look at their copies and billboards, and you feel like there's so much better we can do.
A brand that's not doing well.
I mean, you can. I'm not asking about a brand that is like doing bad. It's just that if I remove that logo from there, I would understand what they're seeing. Have you ever?
I feel like a lot of brands are like that actually, where like if you didn't know their name, it could have been anybody. Because they're basically pumping out sort of generic things.
Anything that you remember that you saw in the subways or on the billboards last?
I mean, when I think of New York City subways, I think of Selena and Barnes. First thing I think of, dollars. which actually they don't advertise anymore, but I don't know. Yeah, when it's like in your face that way and it's not saying much else, just the jingle is all I hear really, and maybe some faces. Like sometimes you have talking heads and pictures of people. Not that that's bad, but if that's all you have, and there's no like message behind it really, then I feel like it could be anybody. So nothing particular is coming to mind off the top of my head, but I will just say that if you can take your name off of the piece you're writing, and this piece could be used by somebody else, or could be obviously written by AI, so generic that there's no real unique point of view, you're probably not doing
It right.
yeah.
Makes sense. I'll ask you the other question particular. If you get a chance to go on a dinner with one of the brand CMOs, who would it be?
One of these brand C people. I'm a big admirer of Salesforce's content. They just have done a fantastic job, especially on the video front. But also because their brand's so strong. So they managed to make it playful, but still very much B2B. So I think that's something that's kind of a big opportunity in B2B, to make it as fun, as engaging, as customer-centric as maybe a B2C company too. So B2B companies such as Salesforce that can do that, they can bring that kind of personality to their content while still driving the demand gen and all those amazing metrics that we all have to, think about. I think that they really, tap into something.
I love Salesforce as well. I mean,
Yeah.
we call Pepper the Salesforce of content marketing. That's what we're building. Our early company, our investor deck had the first slide of saying, this company is the next Salesforce for content marketing.
Why do they say that?
Because we're trying to build a vertically upward stack in this case. So what sales was for Salesforce, the implementation partner services together, is effectively a strategy, technology, talent amalgamation for sales. We are exactly a strategy, technology, talent amalgamation for content. So we always call that. But next company I think of who's doing really close to the marketing that Salesforce does, I really appreciate Notion. Basically, they've been doing a fantastic job at it again. But again, that's the few. Okay, and just the last one over here, Pearl. What is that one song that kind of can motivate you whenever you're off? Like that one song can hype you up. Is there like people have a playlist like that?
Yeah. Oh, wow. This just might sound kind of strange. I don't know, like Get Up or something. Yeah, I play it in the morning, like it's...
Almost every morning?
No, I don't, but like it can get me up. Or even like a song like, I don't know, 9 to 5. 9 to 5. Like it just kind of like gets me out of bed.
Why are you getting it so close to
Yeah.
like 9 to 5, get up?
It's kind of too literal, honestly, but hey, sometimes I like country music. So like I will put on the Dolly Parton. But yeah, hip hop sometimes works too to get me out of bed. I think, my biggest preference is more like R&B and pop, 90s especially. But some of these other like...
Do you attend some of these pop concerts over here from the 90s in the year?
Yeah, I love it. When people come through town, especially some bands like you haven't heard of them in a while, like All For One, also in the 90s. I didn't know they were still touring, but I'm going to go see them next month at the City Winery. So, hey, they're having their reunion tour. So when I see these things, like all these artists been around for a while, like why not go see them? Yeah.
That is fantastic. I think thank you so much for doing this, Pearl. I hope you had fun doing this.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for spending time with us in the studio and the people who are watching this. But really, really appreciate you doing it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Of course.